Abiodun was the only son of Adebayo, a billionaire tycoon who built his empire from the ground up. Abiodun had every reason to boast of his heritage, but he did not. He carried himself with a quiet grace, a calm manner that made him approachable despite his status. While his peers ploughed on flashy cars and flaunted their wealth at high-end parties, Abiodun preferred the simple things in life. His father's wealth did not define him. His humility did. Abiodun's humility was not born of rebellion, but of principle. He believed that people should be valued for who they were, not for the size of their bank accounts or the influence they wielded. His interaction with the people were genuine and thoughtful, whether they were fellow heirs to fortune or the street vendors peddling their wares in the bustling market. It was this rare trait that set him apart and made him a favorite among those who knew him. Ayomide sat on the dusty pavement in front of her shop, her shoulders trembling as uncontrollable sobs escaped from her lips. Her once busy shop, which was her only source of livelihood, now lay in ruins. The shelves were bare and the cash register was empty. It had been ruthlessly cleared out by armed robbers the previous night. Her small dreams of financial independence had been shattered in a single moment of violence. As she cried, she clutched her knees tightly, mourning prayers for relief and questioning why life had dealt her such a cruel hand. Ayomide's parents were dead, and her small shop was her only means of survival. It was that cool evening. Abiodun had been walking through the busy streets. He was lost in thought when he noticed Ayomide. Her fears stirred something deep within him, and he felt an overwhelming urge to comfort her. Gently, he crouched behind her and spoke in a soothing tone. "Are you okay, miss? What happened here?" Ayomide poured out her heart to the stranger. "They have stolen everything from my shop. They've taken my life savings and all that I have in there. I want to kill myself," Ayomide cried. Abiodun listened attentively, his calm presence a stark contrast to her despair. "I'm sorry this happened to you," he said earnestly. After hearing Ayomide's heartbreaking story, Abiodun felt compelled to act. He couldn't bear to see someone so broken and in need. As he pondered how best to help her, he remembered his father's countless philanthropic endeavors and decided to introduce Ayomide to him. "I have someone who can help you," Abiodun told her. Though hesitant at first, driven by desperation and the sincerity in Abiodun's voice. The next day, Abiodun took her to his father's frowning estate. It was only then that Ayomide realized the young man who had comforted her was the son of one of the wealthiest men in the country. Adebayo Aladipo listened intently as his son introduced Ayomide and explained her plight. Mr. Adebayo was moved by Ayomide's story and he decided to rebuild her. He provided her with the capital needed to start afresh and used his vast network to secure prime suppliers and a strategic location for her new fashion shop. Within months, Ayomide's life transformed dramatically. Her business, which started with a small inventory, quickly blossomed into a thriving enterprise. With Adebayo's connection, she gained loyal customers and lucrative contracts, turning her from a struggling shop owner into a respected businesswoman. Ayomide was grateful and thankful beyond words. Abiode's act of kindness had pulled her from the depths of poverty and set her on the path to success. As the weeks turned into months, Ayomide and Abiodun grew inseparable. What had begun as a chance meeting slowly blossomed into a genuine and heartfelt friendship. Abiodun couldn't help but admire Ayomide's strength and determination, while Ayomide was drawn to his kind heart and unassuming nature. And Abiodun made it a habit to always visit Ayomide's shop. Ayomide's clothing boutique, which specialized in high-end African-inspired designs, quickly became a success. Her impeccable taste and unwavering dedication to quality earned her a devoted clientele, including wealthy socialites and influential figures. With Adebayo's support and relentless drive, despite her growing business, Ayomide remained humble and thankful. She valued her connection with Abiodun above everything. Before long, they found themselves falling in love. For Ayomide, it felt like her life was finally falling into place. Her business was thriving, and with Abiodun by her side, she began to see a future filled with hope and happiness. One afternoon, while Ayomide was managing her boutique as usual, a charming customer named Timi walked in. He was tall, charismatic, and effortlessly engaging. Timi introduced himself as a fashion consultant, claiming he had heard about her shop's rising reputation. "Your designs are impressive," he said with a smile. "I would love to collaborate on a few ideas. Maybe even help you expand internationally." Flattered and intrigued, Ayomide exchanged contact information with him, excited about the potential of growing her business further. Over the next few weeks, Timi became a regular presence in Ayomide's life. They often met to discuss ideas, and their conversations spilled into light-hearted chats about life and ambitions. When Abiodun noticed the growing closeness between Ayomide and Timi, he became worried. One evening, he decided to voice his concerns. "Ayomide, I have been meaning to ask, who is this Timi guy?" Abiodun's tone was calm, but tinged with worry. "Oh, Timi, he's just a friend and a business associate," Ayomide replied, brushing it off with a smile. "He's been giving me great ideas for expanding the boutique." Abiodun frowned slightly. "I don't mean to sound controlling, but are you sure about him? Something feels off. I don't like him. Just be careful." Ayomide chuckled and patted his arm. "Come on, Abiodun, you're overthinking it. He's harmless and he has really been helpful." Despite her reassurances, Abiodun couldn't shake the nagging suspicion. Timi's presence unsettled him, but he didn't want to seem possessive or controlling. After months of courtship, Abiodun decided it was time to take the next step in his relationship with Ayomide. Despite his lingering concern about Timi, his love for her remained unwavering. One evening, he arranged a surprise dinner at her favorite restaurant, a cozy spot adorned with fairy lights and soft music. Abiodun reached to his pocket as they ate and pulled out a small velvet purse. He got down on one knee, his calm attitude giving way to nervous anticipation. "Ayomide," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "From the moment I met you, I knew you were special. You've brought light into my life, and I can't imagine a future without you. Will you marry me?" Tears welled up in Ayomide's eyes as she nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes, yes, I'll marry you." The entire restaurant erupted in applause as Abiodun slid the diamond ring into her finger. It was a moment of pure joy, one that seemed to solidify the bond they had nurtured over time. The weeks that followed were filled with excitement as the two began planning their wedding. Ayomide threw herself into preparation. She was proud and happy to be married to the Adeboye's family. It was a quiet afternoon, and Abiodun was at home finalizing details for the wedding. The sun streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow over the room. Everything seemed peaceful until his phone rang. The number was unknown, but Abiodun picked up, expecting it to be another vendor or perhaps one of Ayomide's friends. Instead, a sober voice greeted him. "Hello, am I speaking with Mr. Abiodun Adebayo?" The caller asked with a heavy tone. "Yes, this is Abiodun," he replied. "This is Inspector Kolade from the Lagos State Police Department. I'm afraid I have some difficult news to share." Abiodun's heart began to race as he gripped the phone tighter. "Your parents were involved in a fatal accident earlier today. Their car was crushed by an upcoming truck, and unfortunately, no part of their bodies was recovered." The words hit Abiodun like a thunderclap. "What?" he screamed, his voice trembling. "No, there must be some mistake. My parents, they are supposed to be at a meeting, not this." "I'm deeply sorry, Mr. Abiodun," the inspector continued. "We have confirmed their identities through their driver's license and car registration. Please come to the station when you are ready." Abiodun's phone slipped from his hand as tears streamed down his face. The world around him seemed to blur, the weight of the news crushing him just as mercilessly as the accident has crushed his parents' car. He sank to his knee, sobbing uncontrollably. The loss was unbearable, and the thought of never seeing his parents again left him feeling down. That afternoon, Abiodun's life changed forever. The joy of his engagement was overshadowed by an unimaginable tragedy. Abiodun spent the entire night grieving, his heart weighed down by the loss of his parents. He barely slept. He replayed memories of them in his mind and wondered how he would face life without their guidance and love. By morning, he was exhausted. His eyes were swollen from crying. Just as he was attempting to gather himself, a knock on the door disrupted his solitude. When he opened the door, he was met by his uncle, a man he had always regarded as a distant but family nonetheless. Beside his uncle stood a lawyer, clutching a briefcase and wearing a stern expression. "Abiodun," his uncle began, his tone unnervingly formal, "we have some matters to discuss regarding your father's will." Abiodun invited them in. He was shocked and surprised at the same time. It's barely 24 hours since his parents died, and here is his uncle with some lawyer to talk about will. The lawyer opened his briefcase and presented a document. "According to this will, your father has left all his properties, assets, and the company to your uncle. Unfortunately, you have been left with nothing," the lawyer said. Abiodun's mouth fell open in disbelief. "What? That's impossible. My father would never do that. This has to be a mistake." "It's no mistake," his uncle said coldly. "Your father must have had his reasons. I needed to vacate the premises immediately. This house belongs to me now," his uncle said in a cold tone. Abiodun's protest fell on deaf ears. In a daze, he packed a small bag of belongings, every step feeling like a dagger to his heart. By the time he left the house, he was fighting back tears. With nowhere else to go, he turned to Ayomide, the only person he trusted. When he arrived at her home, Ayomide welcomed him with concern. "Abiodun, what happened?" she asked. "It's a long story. I've lost everything." Ayomide assured him he could stay and that everything would be fine. At first, Ayomide seemed supportive of Abiodun's situation, offering him a place to stay and comforting him during his darkest moment. But as the days turned into weeks, cracks began to form in their relationship. The vibrant, loving Ayomide Abiodun had once known slowly began to change. She became distant, spending less time at home and more time out, always in the company of Timi. When Abiodun noticed her coming back late at night, smelling of expensive perfumes and laughing about things she refused to share with him, he decided to confront her. She had stumbled into the house past midnight that day. "Ayomide," he began gently, "where have you been? You've been out late, almost every night. What's going on?" She rolled her eyes, clearly annoyed. "Why does it matter? I am an adult, and I don't need to explain myself to you. It matters because I care about you. And Timi, I don't trust him. I don't understand why you're spending so much time with him." At that, Ayomide's patience snapped. "Trust? Don't you dare lecture me about trust when you're living under my roof, eating my food, and contributing nothing," she yelled, her words cutting through him like a blade. "Let me remind you, Abiodun, you lost everything. I'm the one keeping you afloat, so you have no right to tell me who I can or cannot see." Abiodun was stunned and surprised. He hadn't expected such harsh words from the woman he loved. Over the following days, Ayomide's behavior worsened. She dismissed his concerns. She openly flaunted her outings with Timi. For the first time, Abiodun began to wonder if the love they once shared had been replaced by something much darker. Abiodun's life took an even darker turn when Timi began showing up at Ayomide's house. One afternoon, as Abiodun sat in the living room, the doorbell rang. When he opened the door, he found Timi standing there with a small grin. "Ayomide invited me," Timi said, brushing past Abiodun without waiting for a response. Confused and angry, Abiodun went to Ayomide, who was laughing in the bedroom. "Why is he here?" he asked, with his voice trembling with frustration. "He's my guest," Ayomide replied nonchalantly, barely glancing at him. "If you have a problem with that, you know where the door is." Over the days that followed, Timi's presence in the house became more permanent. He and Ayomide acted as if they were the only two living there. They spent their days laughing, watching movies, and cuddling on the couch, completely ignoring Abiodun. At night, they would retreat to the bedroom, and the sound of their intimacy would echo through the house, shattering what little pride Abiodun had left. He could do nothing but lie awake in the spare room, tormented by the betrayal that was unfolding before him. To make matters worse, Ayomide began treating him like a servant. "Wash the plates," she would command, tossing her plate at him after meals. "Clean the house and make sure dinner is ready before Timi gets hungry." Abiodun complied, Not because he wanted to, but because he had nowhere else to go. Each task felt like a blow to his dignity. One evening, after a particularly humiliating day, Abiodun confronted Ayomide. How could you treat me this way? I loved you. I gave you my heart. And now you're doing this to me. You are lucky I even let you stay here. Step out of line and I will throw you out of the street where you belong. Her words hurt him deeply, but Abiodun swallowed his pride and retreated to the spare room. He had lost everything. His parents, his wealth, and now the woman he thought loved him. Little did Ayomide know, Kama was waiting just around the corner. Abiodun stood at the sink that afternoon, his hands submerged in the soapy water as he scrubbed a pile of dirty plates. The mundane task had become his daily routine, a stark reminder of how far he had fallen. As he walked, his mind wandered to memories of better days. His parents' laughter, the warmth of their home, and the hope he had once had for his future. What happened to my life? He muttered under his breath in frustration and sorrow. He longed for a way out, but felt trapped in Ayomide's toxic grip. Suddenly, his phone buzzed on the counter, jolting him from his thoughts. He grabbed it with wet hand, expecting another cold command from Ayomide. But when he saw the unknown number flashing on the screen, he hesitated. With a sigh, he answered. The voice on the other side froze him in place. Hello, son. How are you doing? It was deep, familiar, and unmistakably his father's voice. Abiodun's voice raised as he gripped the phone tightly. Dad, his voice trembling with disbelief. Is this really you? But he said you were... He couldn't finish the sentence. He was overwhelmed by a mixture of shock and joy. It's me, son, his father said gently. Your mother and I are alive. There's so much to explain. But for now, just come home. Everything will be alright. Abiodun didn't wait for another explanation. He dropped the phone and bolted out of the house, ignoring Ayomide's shout as he called after him. His legs carried him faster than they ever had, driven by the desperate need to confirm that his father's voice wasn't a cruel trick. Tears streamed down his face as he ran. His heart pounded with hope for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Was he really his father, or was this some cruel illusion? He needed to find out, and nothing could stop him. Abiodun arrived at the gate of his father's compound. With trembling hands, he pushed the gate open and hurried towards the house. The door was already open, and as he stepped inside, he was in shock. There in the living room sat his parents, alive and smiling, as though no time had passed. Abiodun, his mother exclaimed, rising to her feet with her arms stretched. Abiodun's knees buckled as he ran into their embrace, his tears flowing freely. Mom, Dad, he choked, holding them tightly as if afraid they might vanish. His father placed a comforting hand on his back, his eyes glistening with emotion. For a long moment, they simply wept together. The pain of separation melted away in their warmth reunion. After they had composed themselves, Abiodun's father, Adebayo, began to explain. Son, we were involved in a terrible accident. The car was completely destroyed, and everyone assumed we hadn't survived. But God sent us a Samaritan, a kind woman who found us unconscious on the roadside. She took us to her home, nursed us back to health, and cared for us until we could stand on our own again. She wouldn't accept any payment, Abiodun. She only asked that we use our second chance at life wisely. We have spent these months recovering and planning how to set things right, his mother added. It felt like a miracle for Abiodun, one that reignited a spark of hope in his heart. For the first time in months, he felt truly alive, and he knew this was the beginning of something new. The reunion with his parents was a moment of pure joy for Abiodun, but it wasn't long before the truth about his uncle's betrayal came to light. Mr. Adebayo wasted no time in addressing the injustice. After hearing from Abiodun about how he had been thrown out and left with nothing, Mr. Adebayo grew furious. He immediately hired a team of private investigators and legal experts to explain the supposed will that had stripped his son of his inheritance. It didn't take long for the investigators to uncover the truth. The will was a forgery, crafted by a corrupt lawyer at the behest of Abiodun's uncle. Evidence revealed that Abiodun's uncle had bribed the lawyer to draft a false document that transferred all of Mr. Adebayo's properties and wealth to him. In return, the uncle had promised the lawyer half of the fortune once the plan succeeded. The evil plot had worked, but they had underestimated Mr. Adebayo's determination and resources. Mr. Adebayo acted swiftly. He confronted his brother with the evidence, giving him no room for denial. How could you betray your own family for greed? Mr. Adebayo demanded. His brother pleaded for mercy, claiming it was the handwork of the devil. But it was too late. Mr. Adebayo handed over the evidence to the authorities, and both his brother and the corrupt lawyer were arrested. The lawyer faced several consequences. He was not only imprisoned, but also stripped of his license to practice law. The government revoked his credentials, ensuring he could never work in the legal profession again. The news of Mr. Adebayo's return spread like wildfire, reaching even Ayomide. When she heard that Abiodun's father was alive and that the family's wealth had been restored, she was utterly shocked. The man she had humiliated and discarded had regained everything she thought he had lost. Panic set in as Ayomide realized the gravity of her actions and the opportunity she had squandered. She was now alone, having been abandoned by Timi, the man she had betrayed Abiodun for. Timi's true nature had come to light. Far from being the business associate he had claimed to be, he was nothing more than a con artist who preyed on vulnerable and ambitious women. Ayomide had fallen for his charm and promises, only to discover too late that he was using her. He had scammed her out of her money and vanished without a trace, leaving her with nothing. Her once thriving boutique was in shambles, her finances drained, and her reputation tarnished. Ayomide became desperate and broken. She decided to look for Abiodun, hoping for forgiveness and a second chance. Abiodun has a kind heart, and I know he will forgive me and accept me back again, Ayomide whispered to herself. She arrived at his family home with tears streaming down her face as she pleaded with him. Abiodun, I made a terrible mistake, she cried. I was blinded by greed and foolishness. Please forgive me. I've lost everything. I need you. When she finished, Abiodun simply took a deep breath. Ayomide, I loved you with all my heart, and you threw that away. You humiliated me, used me, and sided with someone who sought to destroy you. I cannot forgive you, nor can I forget what you did. With that, Abiodun turned and walked away, leaving Ayomide to face the harsh consequences of her actions. She had traded through love and loyalty for short-lived pleasures, and now she was left with nothing but regret. Abiodun, however, felt a weight lifted off his shoulders. He had closed that chapter of his life and was ready to move forward, stronger and wiser than before. With justice served and peace restored to the Adebayo's family, life began to take a positive turn for Abiodun. His father, Mr. Adebayo, decided it was time to step down from the helm of his business empire. Son, he said one evening as they sat together in the living room, I have worked hard to build this legacy, but it's time for a new generation to take over. You have shown resilience, humility, and strength through everything you've endured. I know you're ready to lead. Abiodun was overwhelmed by his father's faith in him. Dad, I will do my best to uphold everything you've built, he replied with determination. And so, in a grand ceremony attended by family and friends and business associates, Mr. Adebayo officially handed over the reins of the company to his son. Abiodun became the CEO of his father's company, ready to bring fresh ideas and a renewed vision to the business. Under his leadership, the company not only maintained its success, but flourished further, gaining recognition for its innovation and philanthropy. Abiodun's journey had been one of trials and triumph, from being betrayed by those he trusted, losing everything and any humiliation. He had risen above his circumstances with dignity and grace. As he sat in his office one evening, reflecting on how far he had come, he realized that every challenge had shaped him into the man he had become. Abiodun's story teaches us that staying true to one's values will always lead to greater rewards than succumbing to selfishness and deceit. Thank you so much for watching this video, and please, if you like this story, do well to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories. Bye. See you in my next story.